Welcome back to the 13 Sports Coaches Show. I'm Andrew Lynn, joined alongside Hayden girls soccer coach Klaus Kreutzer. Coach, thanks for taking a couple minutes.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Just want to talk about the 2024-2025 season. Quite the run that you guys had, all the way to the four. Won a state title game, a 2-1 loss in double overtime to Bishop Miege, who just keeps on winning. They're on a nearly decade-long streak. After a game like that, what do you tell your girls who work so hard to get to that point?
What I did tell them is they rose to the occasion. I think, we scored um, during the run of play, and the two goals they scored were on dead ball situations, a penalty kick and a corner kick. And I think they played well. I think they gave a good accounting of themselves. Miege beat us earlier. They thumped us earlier in the year 4-0, and so we kind of knew what they were going to do offensively, and so we kind of prepared for that. And I thought it was pretty successful. To hold them scoreless during the run of play, except for those two situations. It's going to hurt for a little bit, but we played a good team, and for me as a coach, I couldn't have been happier because I thought we outplayed them.
I'm new to the area, and I know you guys have had a successful program, but to me it speaks volumes the way that you got to that state championship game. You cruised past Towanda in I want to say the regionals, but then in the quarterfinals, I want to say you guys beat Wichita Trinity 2-0. Wichita Trinity was the top seed, and then you beat Lewisburg, who was I want to say like 16-3. Were you what did that I don't want to say did that surprise you, but how impressive were those two wins to put yourself in a position to be successful?
I don't know that it surprised me. I knew we had a talented group of players. And again, I think they rose to the occasion, and I think our game plan worked. We did look a little bit, as to how they played. For Miege, for example, they attacked in the middle of the field, and so we kind of set up to take that away from them. But like everything else, you have to give up something. So out wide, we were pretty vulnerable, but we made it work. But yeah, I was impressed with our effort, and as a coach, um, what my thoughts were, we should have played that way all season. We had some games where I thought we just didn't perform well. And part of it is our, not looking for excuses, but part of it was our schedule. We played teams like Miege, Washburn Rural, St. James, but then we had, three games that were 8-0. And, it's just difficult as a coach, and it's difficult to keep the players mentally at the peak. So, but yeah, I was impressed, and I was delighted that we were able to get to the championship game.
I mean, you mentioned the strength of schedule. I think there's a flip side of that, and I think you just watch Washburn Rural. You guys lost. I want to say what 7-0 the Washburn Rural,
Right,
but then
right.
they go on to win the program's first ever girls soccer state championship. So it's like, yeah, I think you want to close the gap there and score, but then you have to realize who you're playing. So I guess what are the advantages to playing top teams to prepare yourself for, you know, the top teams in 4 to 1A?
The advantages are that players realize at what level you have to play, that with what intensity, and the intensity and the effort they have to play with in order to compete. And the challenge for us as coaches, is to kind of keep them there. And I'd much rather lose a game 1-0 than win 8-0. It's we don't learn anything from that. So yeah, the schedule, it it's kind of goes against it in some ways, but having said that, playing those tough teams, I think, makes it a little bit easier when we get to play teams that are our size, for example.
Tell me about now rising senior Reese Husher going to Washburn. Tell me what she brings to your team, and you get her back for another year.
I think her effort, she was out, I think, either 4 or 5 games, but her intensity on the field, not just in the games and in practices, she works so hard and she kind of elevates her practices because she makes her teammates work harder. And it gives them a little bit of confidence knowing that when we win the ball and we get the ball, out of the midfield, and we've got somebody that can, maybe make something happen.
I know it's hard to look another year. You just finished one year. It's hard to look to the future. But how would you describe or put kind of yeah, how would you describe, Hayden's identity? What are you guys known for when fans watch? What can they expect from the Wildcats?
I think we're going to be pretty competitive day in, day out, and you're new here, but the last time Miege lost in the sub-state game was in a semifinal when we played them 1-0. And that kind of sticks in my mind. And I think our identity is that we're never going to give up. We're going to give it everything we have, regardless of the competition.
Welcome back.